All right, my guest today is the madman behind many of the cool videos that you see coming out of the Libertarian Party. He is the guy responsible for Jeremy Kauffman's ads. And, we're not going to talk about video or any of that cool stuff today. He also does the System is Down podcast, which I definitely recommend. I've been binging on some of his archives lately because I got to tell you, I'm gonna say this before I bring him on screen, and then he can have whatever feelings he wants about it. One of the reasons I like Dan Smotz is that he makes me feel less weird, and I mean that in the very best possible way. And we're gonna have a conversation today about spirituality and Hitler and all sorts of stuff. So, Dan, welcome to the show. No pressure or anything, dude. No pressure.
I should just be like as straight-laced as possible on this. I should have, I usually, a lot of times on my show, I'll wear like a button, like an actual three-piece suit just for the ridiculousness of it. But no, you saying that I make you feel less weird is beautiful. I love it. I'm glad. That's all I look for in the world is to make people feel more normal about themselves by being the most ridiculous person that they've ever met. Not really. I'm actually pretty normal in real life unless I'm at PorkFest. So you may have had some weird interactions. I honestly don't know how weird I am because I started the show and I was like, yeah, let's be weird and stuff. And then people were like, yeah, you're really weird. And I was like, I thought it was just normal questions I was asking, like, did Hitler go to hell or not? But, I mean, these are things that I talk about and talked a lot more about early on in my show. A lot of weird, just existential questions and things. I think it's fascinating.
Well, I kind of think that every spiritual belief system should probably be able to answer the questions of, did one of the most horrible people ever in the history of the planet, did he go to hell or heaven? That seems to be like a pretty basic thing that we should be able to suss out.
Sure. And everybody but you and possibly myself, I don't know yet, would say yes. And then they would call you a Nazi sympathizer for one tweet that you posted in particular.
Out of a 2-hour conversation.
Right. I also find it funny that that people are like, oh, she's shilling, she's a shill, whatever. Then the reason I knew about you was because of the Hitler tweet. And it's like, that's not what a shill does. Like, that's not gaining you followers, I would imagine.
No, it definitely did not gain me followers. But you know what? It lost me all the followers that I needed to lose and that I don't really want in my life anyway. So I think it worked out pretty well. I have no regrets about it.
That makes sense. I like it.
So let's start with that. Like, did Hitler go to hell? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if he went to hell. And I would, as heretical as it is to my upbringing, I would say that no, he probably didn't. And now I don't think that Hitler was a particularly good guy. I think he had his faults, one or two of them, or 6 million.
Some might say,
whatever.
Yeah, several, as many as several faults.
Yes, a few bad things on his track record that I'm not a fan of, but I also don't believe necessarily in hell as the normal construct that I was taught to believe that I'm probably going to for saying that.
And I feel the same way. Like the reason that I don't think Hitler went to hell is really simple. Like, hell doesn't exist. I don't believe it's a real thing. I believe that like Satan is it's like a being that was created to strike fear into the hearts of men to kind of keep them in line. Now, I do believe there's good and evil in the world, but I believe that we all go to the same place after we die. And I think that Hitler probably paid a very severe debt for what he did, which is, through karma and through experience. I believe that after he died, he had to experience what he did to the 6 million people in the Holocaust. And is there any greater punishment than that?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that, but I've had, like, just in my own pontificating, not even like doing a bunch of digging into these types of things, I've had thoughts of like, if God is like, there's obviously the, if God is a merciful God, why would he make hell? Like, why would he make these constructs to begin with or whatever? And no matter what my child did, even if my child murdered me or tortured me and murdered me, I still can't see myself being like in the grandness. Like, if I had all the divine understanding outside of this whatever plane that we're on of existence, I can't imagine myself being like, well, then you should burn forever in an eternal lake of fire and gnashing of teeth and like wanting to die and just longing for death and not being able to get like that is just, I don't like, and I like my whole spirituality and everything is mostly just, I don't know. like I have things that I believe, but I'm not like tied to any one thought or view. I do probably still lean most closely to Christianity. Um, but I'm like heretical to all of them because I'm just like, none of us know any of this stuff. Like we're all just speculating based on the, I don't know, 34 years I've been on this earth. This is what I've come up with. And like even somebody who's 65, it's like, okay, so you lived twice as long as me and you feel like now you know the vastness of God and you have it all figured out. And if somebody believes slightly different, then they're going to burn forever. It's like, it's just, I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there, but I don't know where you want to take this.
Well, I mean, I guess let's start off with like, what you were raised as a Christian, right?
Yes, my dad was a pastor.
And so you say you more or less consider yourself a Christian now, but like, so what happened between childhood and now to now be a more or less Christian?
Well, what happened was I became more or less atheist or agnostic in between the two. So it's not like I just went slightly down. I went like, screw this all. And I was just kind of not like very openly against things, but mentally like, because like I got married young and had kids and stuff. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I'm not going to like tell my kids that I'm like doubting or anything like that. But I did have like several years, probably at least 4 years, where I was just like, I'm just not convinced of any of this. And I went to more of a screw it, whatever, I'll go along to get along and take my kids to church just because that's what we're doing. And even during that, where I'm like, I don't think this is necessarily the truth. I was like, I'll take my kids because the reason I don't think that is because I know that my brain can't fathom what is. And if I find out later on that I was right the whole time or my parents were right or something like that, and the churches that we go to are like not as, I don't know, as strict as the churches I grew up in. But I'm just like, I'm not going to like push my religion on them in that sense either of like, I don't necessarily believe this right now. But so I went through a bout of like agnosticism at least. And mostly just, I don't care. And I know that you're all full of shit basically was where I was at. And then just built it back up through a lot of things, mostly just personal experiences. And I know that religious people are afraid of talking about personal experiences when it comes to spirituality because this says it, and so that makes it true. But I think that even if I am wrong in not knowing or not claiming to know what is, and there's a merciful God that I'm told he is, I think that I have a hard time believing that he wouldn't value the quest for knowledge or the attempt to try and find truth rather than just going along with what you were told. I think I have a hard time believing that he wouldn't respect that even more than like the Bible was absolutely right and how Western Christianity got it. That was perfect. And you're stupid. Like, I don't, it's just, I have a hard time believing that anybody actually has it figured out. And so why should I, like, there are people that are smarter than me that I will listen to and take their information. But as far as like the specifics and everything, I'm like, well, we don't know, and you have what you believe and I have what I believe, and that's fine. It doesn't make it either one any more or less true. So yeah, I'm open to chatting about anything.
Yeah, what I keep saying to people every time they're like, "Oh, Carlin has these crazy woo-woo new age beliefs." I'm like, "Listen, I believe some weird shit. Like that's legitimately true. I believe weird shit. So
Sure.
do you. You believe that a virgin had a kid. That's
Sure.
fucking weird. That's
Right.
not how that works. And so like I don't mind that you believe that a virgin had a kid, but like can you just acknowledge that like your weird shit really isn't less weird than my weird shit?"
Right. It's just been done more. Like it's been done
Mhm.
more broadly, and of course that's like the whole. Well, what's the difference between a religion and a cult? It's like 12 years, and the death of a leader or whatever. It's like, I don't know, like, and probably even like my current leaning more towards Christianity. A lot of that probably has something to do with like my upbringing as well. If I was like a Buddhist or a Hinduist or I don't know, whatever, and then I went through an atheist bout in that religion, I probably would tend back toward the same as well. So like, I don't know. I hold it pretty loosely, and I know that that's heretical, but I've found that holding things more loosely for me has given me a better understanding of what faith even is, and being able to be like, I don't know, and I'm probably not going to know no matter how hard I try to know, but I'm still going to try to know. So I have my beliefs and I have what I know, And what I know isn't very much, but I do have my beliefs. So
Do you think so I generally think that organized religion is just a means to control people more than anything else. I think it's other human beings trying to control other human beings, which is why I don't subscribe to a specific belief system. And I have, teachers all over the world and shamans that I've worked with and psychics and also all these different like crazy people. And, I think it's important to like diversify the people that you're learning from in regards to spirituality, because everyone has different perspectives and everyone has different experiences. And I think that there's all like, I think that learning from different perspectives that people bring, even just about how to perceive life or what the hell we're even doing here, or what is the purpose of all this, is really valuable. What is your kind of like opinion on organized religion in general?
Mostly, I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I have two sides on this where I'm like, I've seen the mega churches. I've seen, the way a lot of these things, like a lot of the normal criticisms of especially Western Christianity. And, I'm sure the other religions had the same shit of, yes, you authoritarian, whatever, fear tactics and stuff like that. I think that people are corrupt much of the time, and people in power are corrupt, and they get more corrupt the more people follow them. And we see all these mega pastors all over the United States, at least one after another, is like they were preaching against, the gays are the worst possible thing, and then you find out that they were, banging male
Confession through
prostitutes.
projection. Yeah,
Right.
confession through projection.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't necessarily like organized religion as like a whole construct. Yeah, probably it does stem from a lot of like even like the Catholic Church like selling pardons and stuff like that back in the day. And I don't know if they're still doing that. I don't know. I don't pay attention to most of them anymore. But yeah, there's definitely manipulation stuff, but organized religion, like I do think that there's one truth, to be frank. Like I think there is one truth that is, and the rest of us are wrong, and we might still somehow fit into that. I'm not saying that if you're wrong you're going to hell, but I do think that there is one truth. And there are people that are manipulating that for their own benefit. But I also at the same time, I'm invested in my church, and I'm there for our community. I love the people that are there. And like I also see a lot of like the new hipster whatever millennials, like our types of people, a lot of them attacking, like especially people who came from church, attacking the church based on these common tropes, when there are good people in good churches. But like the issue that you have with a church isn't because it's a church, it's because it's full of people and they're all just as fucked up as you are. So yeah, I think there's one true thing, and if we're organizing, I don't think that's inherently bad. But I think people being in power is where things start to get manipulating and shitty. So
I think churches are good for like social connection and community building, and I have no issue with that. I think, but it's always the case where like the people who really want to be in power and want to be in control of that church, either at like the local or the state or the national or the international level, whatever that may be. Like I'm always skeptical of people who actually want to be in power over any system, because inevitably it just seems like power corrupts,
right.
Almost anyone that wants it.
And in fairness, my church is like very small, and I know everybody very personally. So it's really just a, it's the typical structure of worship, and I play on the worship team, and they allow that. So I mean, they are familiar with my show. My pastor and his wife,
You
who
aren't
is
going to
also
get kicked out of your church for this show, are you?
they've both been on my show. That's what I'm saying. And they're familiar with it, and their kids have listened to it. They're just like, we don't agree with you on everything, but you're honest and you're exploring, and there's nothing scary or dangerous about that.
See, I would have no issue with most churches if they had that attitude, be like, explore, ask questions, because like if we can't ask questions about the nature of humanity and like human existence itself, then what the fuck is the point?
Then you're
of any
lying.
Of this?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not only that, but after I had my my pastor, he's like the lead pastor. His wife is also a lead co-pastor, whatever. But he came on my show once, and we did like just a pastor grilling episode, is what I called it, where I just like asked him all the hard whatever questions that I don't even find that uncomfortable, but most people would. And after that, for a time, he did he started a group at our church that was called the Uncomfortable Conversations group, where we would just get together on Wednesday nights, and you'd like if you had just any question, write it down on a slip of paper, drop it into a bucket, so it's like anonymous. But then take it out, and we just discussed it as a group. It's like, in like the first week there, I showed up and I'm like, "Is anal a sin?" Just up, like, let's see how open to this you are. But
how did that conversation go?
It was fine. I mean, it was also like nobody claiming to have the answers to everything too. So
what was the consensus on anal being a sin?
I don't recall.
Oh my God. How could you not remember that conversation? I would be like bringing that conversation up at cocktail parties, being like, that's what I did in my church.
That's true. But yeah, it was cool. It only went for a certain amount of time. We did a couple seasons of it, and then we just kind of fell off. I don't remember why. But yeah, that's how the church is. It's a vineyard church, so they're like, they're more open to just humanity, I think, and just being real about this stuff. And I've said many times on my show, if these people weren't like my pastors, I wouldn't have one. Like I would have, like I found them like kind of starting to get back into it, but not really. And then, they're basically family to me now, more than a lot of my family, quite frankly. And so, yeah, I can't imagine going to, I don't know, like your normal church anymore. So when people are like shitting on churches, I don't want to be the guy who's like, yeah, but my church is different, but it actually is. And you can disagree or not, but it's really just about the people. And if you know the people, you can know like if it's valuable to you or not. And yeah, it's like there might be things said from the pulpit that I disagree with, or there might be things said in private that I disagree with even, but it's like we have a real human one-on-one, like back and forth, where I can tell them if I disagree, and they can challenge me or whatever. And I think that's healthy to have people challenging you.
Cool. What do you think the meaning of life is?
Oh, hell, probably this.
What do you mean by that?
Probably trying to find out the meaning of life, probably trying to find truth. Yeah, if I had to guess, maybe it's just like, it baffles me that most people don't ask these questions, like the uncomfortable conversations. It's like, I don't know, it's like a completely different species if you're not asking these and obsessing about these in your mind. And that might just be me, I don't know. But I know a lot of people that believed a thing from childhood up until adulthood, and it's like, did you not even like, you didn't, I don't know, you didn't think about the hell thing or anything? Like, this is different to you? Like, how does your brain not go there? Because for me, I'm like, so you're telling me that merciful God burns you forever if you don't think this way? And it's like, I just don't buy it. And I could be wrong. I could be going to hell because I think that way. But if so, then I guess that was what was going to happen anyway. So,
well, yeah, I mean, and would life really be worth living if you couldn't have these conversations and couldn't ask those questions? But I don't know. I kind of think that, and I'm going to bring it back to the Hitler thing in a second. We aren't off you don't get off that easy. We're only like 20 minutes into this conversation. I think the purpose of life is like experience. It's to understand different types of human experience, whether that be good or bad or hot or cold or love or hate or oppression or being the oppressor or whatever that might be. I think that's the only explanation for what the purpose of life is that has really ever made sense to me, is that we're just supposed to come and have different experiences and learn from those experiences.
Yeah. I know I got off on a trail there. You'll have to keep me reined in sometimes. But yeah, your question being like, what is the purpose? I'm like, I think this is it. Like, I think that if you're not thinking, if you're not questioning, if you're not trying to find the meaning of life, then you're probably not going to. And so that kind of makes it the point in my mind. Like, just the quest to understand who and what God is, or what creation is, or what our purpose is here. I think, I don't know, possibly new agey shit as well, where I think that we all have a purpose in this fabric of humanity, and most of us aren't, actually even trying to find that purpose, much less living it out. And I don't know, maybe if we were, we would overcome some of these hurdles, like starvation and things that we blame on God, or we blame on the devil, depending on what your flavor is of spirituality. I think that questioning and trying to find that enlightenment of not becoming God necessarily, but understand Him in our lives or whatever.
Well, I mean, like you say this like a new agey thing, but like couldn't you argue that, I mean, Jesus had a purpose here, I
Right.
would think.
By new agey,
Um,
I mean not like my like
right.
everything was new agey. If it was like not King James version or whatever,
Mhm.
which I am curious. Your guest that you have coming on, I am curious which Bible is the right one because I've just been reading the Message.
Oh, he has very
Just
strong
kidding.
opinions about that. He told me, and I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. I'm going to let him pronounce it because
Sure.
I suck at pronouncing things that are weird.
And I also think that Christians get hung up on like you have to read this version, otherwise you're wrong. And it's like, well, if you're, I don't know, like none of these are written in Hebrew or whatever. Like none of these are
Mhm.
the original translation, and that always bothered me about like biblical inerrancy and stuff. Like the Bible says, nothing can ever be added or taken away. It's like, but
But
his
you
name,
added and took away.
it's in English, and his name's not Jesus. It was Yeshua, and if that was even translated, his name would be Josh Christ. I understand that that's not the most appealing Christ figure name, Josh, but that doesn't like you changed his name, and now the whole entire thing is based around that. I don't think that there's necessarily harm in that, but it seems odd to me that we're going to pretend like nothing can be taken away when you change the name of the main guy and
Hmm.
we're still calling God God, like we call our plumber plumber. It's very strange.
Do you think well, whatever version of the Bible you've read recently, I suppose, do you think that that is like a literal account of what Jesus's life was?
No, I maybe possibly. I think it's possible. I think it's possible that the Bible is completely inerrant. And I know these are going to sound like political answers, but these are the conversations that I have like on a regular basis, and it's
Mhm.
always the same, whether it's on air or off. But I will always come back to I don't know, but if I had to guess, I don't necessarily think the Bible is inerrant. Like it's not necessarily the literal infallible word of God, and that was something that I got hung up on for a long time. But like, there's we've got Josh Christ's in the chat. I like that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think just like us now, we're somebody now who says, God, I feel like God told me to do this thing. They might write that down, and maybe God did tell them, or maybe it was just some bad meatloaf or something that made them feel a certain way and have a different synapses firing of the in the brain or something, and they wrote that
Mhm.
down because they felt like God was saying it. Maybe he was, but if he wasn't telling you to like slaughter a bunch of children or something hypothetically, and you just thought that because that was good for your wartime propaganda at the time and you wrote it down, not even saying they had ill intentions. Well, I mean they would have to at some point to be
One would think.
slaughtering children, but maybe they justify it in their brain or something. Maybe they didn't have, maybe they thought, oh well, this seems bad, but God told me to do it, which we would call them crazy people these days. Like if somebody said that God told me to sacrifice my son on this altar and then he told me not to, we'd be like, well, you're still not going to be able to have your kid anymore because you were going to sacrifice him on that altar. Like these are things that we praise as being noble back then, but they would be horrifying if they were to happen now. But yeah, I do think that the Bible is God inspired, and God, you know, if he is what I believe he is, I do think that he had something to do with it. And I think there's a lot of value in it. I'm not like dogging on it or anything. I just think like if there is something that doesn't quite add up, it might just not quite add up. And maybe you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops and do a bunch of backflips in order to make this make sense. Because maybe it's just like, do you need this book to be the infallible word of God for you to still believe in God? Like, if that goes away, do you stop believing in God? And if not,
Mhm.
then maybe it's not as cut and dry as you think it is, and you can believe him without it, or with it, or with parts of it, or what have you. I don't know.
The first time I did ayahuasca, I did it with like a group of people, and the next day we get up and we talk about like what happened in the ceremony and all that stuff. And one of the women was like, I had a whole conversation with Jesus, and what Jesus told me is that if I was here now, I would have been doing this with you guys. What do you think of that?
Hmm. What do you think about that?
I think it's
It's like I don't know their demeanor or anything. If
well,
they were
no, I think it's probably true. I mean, I think that Jesus, I mean, what the hell happened between
Josh,
the Josh. Okay, well, we'll go informal. We'll go. We're basically besties. No, I mean, like, I think that that's probably true, because I think that, what the hell happened with Jesus between like when he was a kid and when he was like, what, like 30 years old or something like
32,
that?
something like that. Yeah.
Like where was he? And like, I mean, part of what, what I've heard people believe is that, he was traveling around and learning from different teachers and learning from, going around and learning different philosophies. And so if that's true, then I absolutely believe that he could be a person that would have sat in an ayahuasca ceremony in Peru for a night, because, why wouldn't you? Like, ayahuasca for me is about communing with God. It is like a spiritual ceremony.
Yeah.
And so, like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. So are you asking me if I think that Jesus would tell her to do ayahuasca, or if I trust her that Jesus was literally telling her to do that? Because that's where my brain went, is like, I don't know. When she seemed like a trustworthy person. Yeah, I have no problem with Jesus telling her to do ayahuasca.
No, I absolutely believe that Jesus. Well, I absolutely believe in my belief system, Jesus is like an ascended master. He's not like the son of God or anything, but like he's one of many ascended masters. And so, do I believe that Jesus showed up for her? Yeah, she's like a very spiritual person. So I absolutely believe she was telling the truth.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm done. Yeah.
All right.
But if Jesus told her to kill her kid, I'd be a little bit more skeptical.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, I think that, what they teach us is that, if you have a conversation with spirit, they're never going to ask you to do things that are like that. And that's been universally true for me. Just in terms of like, things I've had in like meditation or in ceremony or things like that. I've never been told by God or whoever I was talking to at the time to, go and murder someone. It's always been a message of like pure unconditional love and connectedness with everyone around you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I don't know why this came to mind, but have you ever watched The Good Place, the show?
Oh, I think my husband tried to get me to watch that. Yeah, I watched a couple episodes, I think.
It's pretty good. It gets a little bit nutty, but in the very first episode, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched this very old show, that the first episode I'm going to spoil, but there's she like dies, and then she goes to the good place, and she's like, so were the Christians right, or who was right, or whatever? He's like, that guy there on the wall, and he's got like a name for him or something, and he's like, that guy there is just like this picture of this like I don't know, just like normal looking schlubby dude who's like maybe a hippie-ish looking dude. And he's like, that guy is the guy who got it the closest during like an acid fueled like bender one night. He just started spouting off a bunch of nonsense, and we were shocked. Like he was like the closest anybody's ever been. I kind of lean towards that. Like I might be on the right track, or somebody else might be on the right track, or more likely we're all humans, and we all have this nebulous concept of what God is or whatever, and it's never going to be exactly true, and it might be a collection of all these thoughts that have come out of humanity. I don't know.
I was, another woman I was in ceremony with one time, she told me this story about how her grandmother came to her one time in a dream, and she said, the Buddhists have it the closest to being right. It's the Buddhists. Listen to the Buddhists.
I could see Jesus agreeing with that these days. Like, where Western Christianity has gone, I think, is so far departed from even old school Christianity, which, whatever, even Catholicism or what have you, all of these things, I think, are pretty far departed from the actual what these things were founded on back in the day. But if Jesus was alive, he'd probably be like, y'all chill the fuck out and look for enlightenment. Like I don't disagree with that, and I think that he's probably the son of God too. I don't know. I think they're all partially wrong and partially right, and that's fine.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like what I think too. I think that like pretty much all the major religions they've got bits and pieces of it, and I think it like you're going to gravitate to the ones that are going to work best for you. And if you're going to this church and you like it and that's what works best for you, like that's cool for you, man. And if I do something else, that's fine too. And we don't need to. Not everyone needs to do the same thing, because we're not. I don't think that we're all here to have the same journey. We're not all here to have the same experience. And so trying to force other people into doing things the way that we would do them, well, that's disrupting their experience. Leave them alone. Let them do their thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned in our, I don't know, it was one of the Twitter threads about this episode the other day. They're like, what about the C.S. Lewis, like hell is just like a separation from God. I kind of think that could very well be the case as well. When like even when the Bible talks about hell just being like when you are, just going through life, even like not pursuing anything beyond just your day to day life. That's kind of hell, in my opinion. Like a lot of people are just miserable, drinking themselves to sleep at night, and I think it has a lot to do with them not seeking their purpose, which I think is also seeking God and divinity. So, yeah, I think that's very possible, and I believe in that more than fire and brimstone.
Well, if that's true, couldn't we also say then that hell is a human created thing because only human beings can really separate themselves from God?
Absolutely, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I want to take this super chat from Cyrus Cherry. He says, Eckhart Tolle hinted in a video yesterday that other beings are evolving on other planets. It makes me wonder if there's a hierarchy of worlds, maybe a place where different laws of physics exist. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the Earth is flat and there aren't other
Oh
worlds.
no. Oh no. You're going to make me have the flat earther conversation today, aren't you?
No. No, I don't actually necessarily believe the Earth is flat. I love the theory, and I don't care to get into it because I've done it many times. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. We can get into it as much as you want, but that's not what we're here to talk
Maybe
about.
another day.
But yeah, I don't know, like alternate dimensions, alternate worlds. I'm open to all of it. Like planets being real, I'm fine with that. I suppose NASA not lying to us about everything. It's a little far fetched, but I can maybe believe that NASA's not lying to us about everything.
I absolutely believe there are other worlds, and I absolutely believe there are aliens. And I think that, in addition to choosing to incarnate in this human Earth, that we can choose to incarnate on other worlds as well, just depending on, again, like what types of experiences we want to have. And what the spiritual teachers tell us is that the difference between incarnating here is that human emotion is something that like you aren't going to experience emotions on any other type of planet. That's something that's unique to the human experience. And so I think that, a lot of times when people are like, you shouldn't be so emotional, you should be more rational. I'm like, well, you're actually discarding a key part of our experience on this planet. And I think that that's a shame.
Well, why do you think that they're not humans on the other planets? And something that I pondered as a kid, because I was very Christian, but also fascinated with the idea of aliens back when it was still taboo and the government wasn't all about it like they are now. But I was always like, what if there are aliens? And if there are aliens, then are they saved? Did Jesus go there? Did they have a different Bible? Did they have a different Jesus? Like these are things that I was contemplating even as a child. But what if these other worlds or whatever are just other humans or other whatever, maybe even more enlightened beings than us? What if God made them?
I think we are probably some of the most unenlightened beings in the entire universe. I think we are very unevolved compared to other human
Probably
beings.
a lot of people in the chats that agree with that statement.
I think so too. Where the hell was I going with this alien thing? I don't remember. Oh, I once had a psychic reading where so I used to be like, I was one of those kids that like my parents made us watch like Unsolved Mysteries every single week, like religiously. And I loved Unsolved Mysteries, except for when they did like the alien abduction episodes, in which I would get terrified and end up curling up in my bed in the fetal position, like terrified that the aliens were going to come and abduct me all night. And that kind of stayed with me because those were like traumatic experiences for me. And years ago, I did this reading with a psychic that it had nothing to do with anything about like what the reading was about, but she made a note in it. And it was just like a written report that she gave me that said something like, the aliens of this world, thank you for your contribution to them during your current incarnation. I was like, holy shit, was I abducted by aliens when I was a kid? And that was why I was so afraid of them?
It's possible. Yeah. And like, I don't know, like for me personally, as far as what I believe, again, I'm open to all the things. Aliens, maybe, sure. I think there's definitely things beyond our current understanding and existence. Whether they're on other planets or within other realms or dimensions, I am open to. But I am curious of your thoughts on like, so even if hell is not a real place, are there dark forces? Are there demons and angels? Are there bad things in these other dimensions?
I mean, I absolutely believe that angels exist. I do angel meditations all the time. I think that angels are just it's a different energy. They're it's a being that was like never incarnated as a human, but you absolutely can like access their energy. And I think that
So it's
they're
aborted babies.
it could be aborted. It could be. No, because well, the aborted babies is like a whole other conversation. I actually do believe there's a spiritual purpose for that as well, and we can have that conversation in a minute if you want. But no, I think that aliens are energies that are here to help us. I asked the alien or the aliens, no angels. Angels are here to help us. I ask angels for help all the time, like whether it be like finding my car keys that I lost for 2 days and then found them in the most random spot the other day, or like I ask angels for upgrades every time I travel. And people like they're like, why would you abuse angels like that? I'm like, angels want me to have a first class ticket on a flight. I don't like
abuse angels as though they're like, we've got so much work to do. Why are you bothering us? Like they didn't have to do it. Like
no, but they wanted to help. They wanted me to have a more pleasant experience.
Like, are these people that are legit? Like you are abusing your angel privilege or something by getting a upgrade?
Yes. I have pissed off Christians on Twitter by asking angels to help me in this
the
lifetime.
angel could say no. I mean, they had no problem saying no to that family whose child was dying and still died. They said no to them. They could say no to you about your first class.
Exactly. But usually they don't. Every single time I ask, I end up getting upgrades. And then they're like, well, why don't you not ask and see what happens? I'm like, well, I don't want to take that risk. I want my upgrade. God damn it. But no, so I do believe angels are a thing. Like demons. Yeah. I mean, I believe there are dark forces, but again, I think those dark forces are created because human beings want there to be dark and evil forces. And so they focus on it. And in focusing on it so much, they end up creating these dark evil forces. I think that there's a lot of demonic shit going on with this gender ideology stuff, and that's why like I don't actually cover a lot of it, because the energy of it is like so dark and awful that I don't even want to go anywhere near it. So I think there are really
let's talk
evil
about
forces.
Hitler instead.
Oh God, well, I mean, I think
but don't go there. That's too dark. Let's talk about whether or not Hitler went to hell for an episode.
well, we haven't really talked about it that much, though, have we?
That's true.
Well,
you've been avoiding it. I think you're scared.
Well, okay. So if life is a bad experience and everyone that incarnates on this planet has a spiritual purpose for some reason, wouldn't we say that Hitler had a spiritual purpose? Like, wasn't there, couldn't you argue that there was some larger divine meaning to what the Holocaust was? Not to say that it was good. I'm not saying it was good. Don't cancel me, you fuckers. But like, couldn't we say that there was a large, like that was a massive event that impacted millions and millions and millions of people all over the world in ways that we still talk about today? How could that not have some sort of spiritual significance?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Just, I mean, yes, the Holocaust is a bad thing. And also, like, a child walking out in the street and dying is a bad thing. It's like, there might be some, I don't know, I would imagine there probably is some sort of spiritual significance beyond our understanding. Not that it's a good thing. I know, guys, shut up. But I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if I go with you on the whole we all chose our thing before we were born or any of that stuff. I think it's possible. I'm open to it. But like I have thought as far as like afterlife stuff on like, maybe, I mean, the Bible talks about all will see and know the glory of God and this and that. It's like while they're burning, or what do you mean? Like they're going to be like, oh, neat. Well, that sucks. So it's just like insult to infinite injury. That's very loving and all, but what like I've pondered, like, what if we get there and then we're all like, ah, shit. And they're like, well, I get it. And he's like, all right, come on in. And we're maybe not that, I don't know, maybe get some sort of punishment, or maybe even reincarnation or something. Like, now that you're here, you didn't get it, now go try again. As far as whether I don't know if this has anything to do with your question, but as far as whether or not I think Hitler had a divine purpose, I think he did have a divine purpose. I think he probably wasn't.
Hang on. We're offline. They detected a copyright violation. What the fuck? How is there a copyright violation, YouTube, you fuckers?
Wow.
They took us offline.
Hey guys, it's not the system is down right now. This is a conundrum. We're here on this channel because We started out a beautiful conversation about the most important topics in life, like did Hitler go to hell or not. You can watch the whole first, I don't know how long, before we got kicked off over on Carlin's site, or page, YouTube thing, and then we got booted. I don't know if we want to say why or if we want to just roll.
Well, no, we got booted because I did a stream like a little while ago about it was like a stream of conscious thing about how like if you walk away from the Democratic Party, don't get sucked into the alt-right. And apparently YouTube wants former Democrats to get sucked into the alt-right because they just gave me a community guideline strike for that and took the stream down. So
that's kind of how I got kicked off of Facebook, because I had a guy on.
Really?
I had talked about a bunch of QAnon stuff, just exploring back before it was a dangerous evil white supremacy thing. And then on January 6th, or the day, I think it was on January 6th, I had an episode because I knew that some stuff was happening. And I was like, I had my friend on who's like a QAnon guy. I had him on and we talked about QAnon stuff, and I was disagreeing with him the entire time, and I was like, no, this is stupid, I'm not buying it anymore, this is bullshit. And that's what got me removed from Facebook, and my wife removed from Facebook, and all of our business pages and everything removed from Facebook for disagreeing with a friend about QAnon stuff on January 6th. So
that's insane, but it doesn't actually surprise me at all. Facebook is insane. I mean, they did the same thing after Brandon Strzok from Walkaway got arrested. Well, not even after. Like, I think they took down like the entire Walkaway Facebook group like immediately on January 6th, which was like over 500,000 people. Yeah. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. And anyway, for the people that are just now stumbling in, this is Carlin's show. I'm not going to lead here or anything. You take over. She is currently handicapped from her own source of talking to you.
YouTube is being some fuckers. Hopefully the Lauren Southern premiere will still happen tonight as scheduled. I guess we'll have to see about that. But no, I mean we were talking about like, okay, if the purpose of life, and I'm going to just like qualify my own perspective, and I know you don't necessarily agree with this, if the purpose of life is experience, and if we can say that, you know, Jesus coming here to have as a spiritual being, having a human experience, that obviously had some sort of purpose for a lot of people. Well, can't we say the same thing of Hitler? Because like the Holocaust as a horrible, vile, awful event that should never, ever, ever.
We should just have a thing that flashes at the bottom that says, "We don't like the Holocaust. Stop.
We don't
assuming."
like the Holocaust.
Yeah.
No, we're not in agreement with the. Yeah, well, whatever. But it was a massive event that impacted millions and millions and millions of people. And couldn't we say that also may have had some sort of spiritual purpose? And if so, like, what could that have been? And if it was a spiritual purpose, then could Hitler really go to hell? There we go. Perfect.
Just so there's no confusion here.
Yeah. If Hitler was fulfilling some sort of spiritual purpose that would teach humanity a divine lesson about something, then could he have really gone to hell for that? Because he came here to fulfill some sort of spiritual purpose.
I don't know. Again, not sure I believe in hell. So could he have gone to hell? No, I don't think so. But I think that, again, I don't know where we got cut off or what was.
Yeah, I don't know either. We're making this up as we go along. It's
fine. But yeah, I think that it's very possible that I do think that Hitler had a purpose. I'm not sure if his purpose was fulfilled. I would guess, I would lean towards it wasn't, and he was just self-absorbed narcissist who was. His brain was broken. I don't think he fulfilled his purpose. I also don't think it's
well, yes, Hitler as a human. Like, I absolutely would argue Hitler as a human being's brain was purpose, or what brain was like totally fucked up, obviously. Yeah. But you know, but it couldn't that act. I mean, like it. So there are a lot of people who, like, a lot of like dictator, like supervillain type people that committed heinous acts around that same time period. Like you look at like Stalin or Mao or like Pol Pot or any of these things, right? And doesn't humanity learn something from witnessing some of the most heinous atrocities that are inflicted on humanity? Don't we as human beings take lessons away from that?
Yes.
So then wouldn't that be some sort of purpose?
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's the same for everything. Like Christians trying to make sense of, you know, their child dying or whatever, like tragic, awful situations that people go through. And the people who are like, oh, heaven got another angel, or God works in mysterious, like all the bullshit, like just whatever, like that's being like, I wouldn't go up to somebody who's in the Holocaust and be like, well, you're part of a divine purpose here, don't you worry, it's gonna be okay.
Well, yes, yeah.
Right. But yeah, to say that, is it possible that there are things beyond my understanding? Absolutely. And yes, if God chose to wipe out every white man ever, then I'd be like, I don't get it, but I'm also not God, and I don't understand why you would do that. But there's probably, I would imagine, some sort of purpose behind it. So yes, I suppose.
So I didn't when I was getting in trouble for that tweet, because I am actually more self-reflective than people might think that I am. But like I started meditating on like, okay, like let's just follow this through. Like if Hitler was fulfilling some sort of like divine purpose, and that was supposed to have some sort of impact on humanity for us to learn lessons as a collective that we need to learn in order to advance ourselves. If that's true, what are those lessons? Like what was the point of all of that? And
I just thought of
what's
something.
that? What?
So it's mostly conservatives, like Christians, that have a problem with your take on this, right?
Well, like the left feigns it, but it was the Christians that started the canceling, and then the leftists jumped on
Sure.
board.
So especially to the Christians, like, so you think that Hitler didn't have any purpose, but you believe that there's a devil and a hell. And who made it? Where'd it come from? Like, who's in charge here? Frankly, like, if that has a purpose, that seems worse than the Holocaust. I know this might be a stretch or something crazy to say, but most of humanity, from my understanding as a child, burning forever and ever in a lake of fire is worse.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
if that has a purpose, then why doesn't Hitler? I don't like the purpose, or I don't like at least our understanding of it at this point, and I can't possibly imagine what the purpose could be other than just, learning through suffering. But I don't know. It's certainly possible.
Well, I mean, I think learning through suffering could absolutely be a purpose, though. I think, the greatest spiritual growth, or even just growth as human beings that we tend to have, are when things are hard, not when things are easy, right? It's like, what does that mean? Like hard times make, whatever men, like good men, and then good men make easy times, and then easy times
Right.
make whatever. But like, no, I mean, like, so have you ever heard of the concept of the darkest night of the soul?
Sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me.
It's basically like when we go through a lot of shit, we learn a lot about ourselves, and we like that's when the darkest nights, the worst things that happen to us, lead to our greatest and quickest spiritual growth.
Yeah. No, I believe that, but sometimes those darkest nights lead to, I don't know, death in a gas chamber. So it's hard to get spiritual growth out of that necessarily.
Well, but is it though? Because like it's not as though like I mean there were probably many nights before that gas chamber. I would for many of those people, and so I would assume that like the suffering and the imprisonment and the oppression and just like the heinous nature of being involved in something like that is I would think that probably did lead to a lot of spiritual reflection.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but I meditated
like I'm not going to be a hard sell on
Mm-hmm.
this because. Yeah, I led with I'm open, and I don't know, and I'm fine with not knowing. And yeah, I think of course your way of wording it on Twitter was with a intent purpose. It seems to get a certain feeling out of people. Yeah,
I was trying to piss people off. Yeah, I was trolling. Yeah. I was absolutely trolling, but I was trolling in a way with like I meant everything that I said, sure. And it was I still maintain that it was taken out of context, and it wasn't even quoted accurately because right. I didn't say Jews in the tweet. But right. But like bigger picture, like I meditated on it like during that week that I was getting canceled, and basically the answer that I got, and I really don't think this answer came from me because it didn't feel like it came from me, was that as a collective, like the people that sacrificed themselves to live a life where they were a part of the Holocaust and died in the Holocaust, like that was a sacrifice that they made so that we all could have a greater level of understanding of love and peace and freedom and all of those things. Because
Thanks,
if
guys.
we experience the worst possible, well, yeah, I mean, but for real, it's like it's almost like a really beautiful sacrifice though, because like if we experience the worst possible things, that gives us a better understanding and appreciation for the best possible things.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. And we do have I don't know how much you normally read chats, but Brand131 says, from a Calvinist perspective, Hitler can still go to hell even if he just acted out on purpose. and that raises way more questions on Calvinism for me because I have a lot. So, predestination stuff, that's even farther. I don't know, because yours is kind of predestination as well. But they're kind of the ones choosing or something like that. So, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on like Calvinism and that type of thing?
I don't know that I understand the philosophy of Calvinism really all that well, but I know that a lot of people said I was like a Calvinist and believed in predestination, but I don't really in that way. I believe that we all made choices about the experience that we're going to have in this lifetime before we were born, like, you know, what type of person we're going to be, where are we going to be born, who are we going to be born to, what type of lessons do we want to learn, what type of experiences do we want to have. So I do believe we make those decisions before we're born, but I also believe that once we're here, we have free will and we can choose to do other things. So it's not like predestination and like you make these decisions and you're just like locked into it and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, no, you have free will. You can make different decisions. I just find that when I kind of get off what I think my spiritual path is, I just find that like life is a lot harder and it has a way of like nudging you back in the direction you're supposed to be in. And it's almost like, okay, like my life is going to be easier and probably going to be more fulfilling if I just try to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing and go down that path, rather than continuing to fight it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like how long we even need to spend on Hitler. Not not because I'm avoiding it, but
I just framed
because
it that way to piss people off.
right.
You know
I
that.
know,
Like,
I
come
know. Yeah,
on.
and just like frankly, I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like even your original tweet, I'm like, interesting. Like it doesn't like raise any like anything other than hey, tell me more about that. Like that's the only emotion that I get out of a spicy tweet like that. I'm just like,
Mhm.
explain. But everybody else is jumping to conclusions. So if people came into this thinking that we're going to have a debate over whether or not Hitler went to hell, I'd like I don't know, and I don't care if Hitler went to hell. It doesn't change anything. Like if I found out that Hitler went to heaven, like definitively, if I knew that, which I won't in this entire life, I'm sure that I will not know for sure the answer of that question. But if I did, what would that change for me? Be like, all right, so God's, more merciful than I thought he was. Darn. Like,
Mhm.
okay, so he was a terrible guy here, obviously, and he's he's working that out. He's doing whatever. That's between him and God. Like, he's not alive, to my knowledge. Well, he might be. I'm not sure. I think he'd be really old if he was. But yeah, I think that you know, I don't know. I'm just over the hell thing, and I'm even on that. I'm open to being swayed in the other direction. But the only real arguments that I've heard on that is the Bible says it and you're wrong, and that's just not good enough for me. So
Mhm.
yeah.
No, I mean, and like I don't really want to debate this either, and I think that it's kind of stupid to even debate these ideas sometimes because it's like debates never even like convince anyone of anything. I just think it's interesting to have these discussions and to
Yeah,
explore the different perspectives.
especially like growing up in Western Christian church and all that, like seeing the division between just Western Christian churches or even Western Christian Pentecostal churches. Like, if you believe that the rapture is going to happen, but it's going to happen pre-trib, then, and we believe post-trib, then you're the devil. Like, just these very minute differences that Christians that agree on 99.9% of everything, they're like, well, that person believes slightly different, so they are wrong and they were bad. Like, just seeing that as a child and knowing, oh, we do associate with them because they're Christians when our churches decide to work together, but we don't go to that church because they believe slightly different. It's like that assumes so much. That assumes that not only do you have it all figured out, but you have it figured out and you know that they're wrong on that one thing, and that one thing is so important that you can't change. That you are going to, I don't know, sever ties with them in certain communities and stuff like that. When, like, I don't know. It's kind of like if you believe the Bible is inerrant and you believe, like, Adam and Eve were actual people or whatever, and their downfall was pride and arrogance and feeling like they knew more than God and whatever. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're assuming that you have this whole God thing figured out in your very finite time on this earth. You have it all figured out, and you're willing to write people off if they haven't. If maybe they're still learning and haven't quite figured it all out. Maybe they're not quite as brilliant and enlightened as you, but you're willing to sever ties for that. It's just no. It's bullshit, and I don't know. It's bullshit. The end. Period.
Yeah. We don't all have to agree. We don't all have to agree. We don't all have to believe the same thing. It's so stupid. And we don't, and like you said, like we don't really know anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody knows most of the things. I would imagine I would be willing to bet, put money on even on that of all humans and all of their beliefs, they know less they there's more that they don't know than what they do know about the spiritual realm. Even the most enlightened, I would imagine that it's far beyond anything that no matter how hard we pray or meditate or think about it or study it or read humans' words about it, it doesn't change what is, and what is probably something that once we understand it, we will be, like God or something. Like it, that's what it will take for our brains that were like we were made by something, I believe.
Right.
And if we were made by something, then that thing understands its creation, but we're not going to understand what created this brain. So at the same time, I'm like, well, if I'm having this thought, not that all thoughts are like God inspired or whatever, but if I'm having these contemplations,
or are they?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I'm fine with it. I don't think so, but like if I'm questioning this thing, like, and God is like sitting up there like, oh, he's questioning that one little minute detail about what I wrote down in English in the Western Bible, and he's like, well, then you're screwed. Like, I don't know. Like we're not going to understand it, no matter how hard we try. Like a canvas can't understand an artist's brain. Like what the artist is making, the canvas has no clue. Like I think that we're probably even dumber than the canvas compared to the artist. So.
Have you ever read or heard of A Course in Miracles?
No.
You've never heard of A Course in Miracles?
I don't know, man. That's a very generic name.
Oh, really? It's not a generic name. You know what it is? It's a big ass fucking book that looks a lot like the Bible and reads a lot like the Bible, because it has basically the whole idea behind this book is like it was like a channeled, and I know like you have opinions about channeling, and maybe we'll talk about some of those opinions, but it was like a channeled book of a woman wrote it in the 70s, that basically is like Jesus coming back and saying, you like the Bible is fine, like the written word of the Bible is fine, but you idiots are interpreting it incorrectly, and I'm going to correct the interpretation that you have via the Course in Miracles. And so there's a lot of stuff in this book that's like it takes like I mean, it plays off of like passages that are in the Bible, but it says, here is the correct interpretation of the passage in the Bible that you idiots have fucked up.
That's cool. What is the background of the author?
I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head. Like probably like she's probably been painted by like a crazy lady. But like, Marianne Williamson bases a lot of her work off A Course in Miracles. The book I was quoting with the Hitler went to heaven tweet is it's called Conversations with God. He based it, it's loosely based on A Course in Miracles. It's a little bit of a simpler translation of it. But a lot of teachers have based a lot of their work on the same ideas that are in this book. And so when I see these ideas showing up like, over and over and over again, even like you can even make the argument honestly that like the Matrix is based off of the ideas in A Course in Miracles. It shows up in pop culture all the time. And so when I see ideas showing up like that, I'm like, this isn't an accident that all of these different ideas are showing up with different teachers all over the world, even in terms of like being integrated into pop culture and movies and things like that. That's coming from somewhere. And, my argument would be it comes from some sort of collective consciousness. But maybe I'm just making that up. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible that you're making it up, and it's also possible that it's true. Like, same as all the other things. And, yeah, like I said earlier, I don't know if it was in the final cut or not, but, like, I believe in some sort, like, not, I don't know if I would say collective consciousness, but, yeah, basically, like, collective purpose, collective fabric of humanity, like, collective, I don't know, like, all of us having a role. I think that the only, I don't know, I guess deviation in between that and what you're saying with the Hitler thing is you're saying that his purpose was that, and I'm saying that his purpose wasn't fulfilled, and instead he was consumed in his own bullshit.
I do think his purpose was that, and I think that we can choose to have evil purposes. I mean, or what we might as human beings perceive as evil. But if that purpose leads to a more kind humanity, like for all, like if the Holocaust, and you could actually make the argument the Holocaust is not like actually the most evil thing that's ever happened in the world, but
Yeah.
let's make that argument for the moment. Like if you make the argument the Holocaust is the most evil thing that has ever happened, oh nice porn bot,
Thank you.
like has
Banning.
ever happened ever in the history of the world, then but you could also say that okay, we've now all experienced the most evil thing that will happen in the history of humanity. We've learned what evil looks like,
Sure.
and it is given us the ability to never repeat that something like that again, because we know what that atrocity looks like. Whereas before that, I mean, it's like if you don't actually, so I believe the purpose of life is experience. If you don't actually have the experience to know this is what the ultimate form of evil looks like, then you kind of need that to be able to avoid doing that stuff in the future.
Yeah, I like it. And we do have Itzoma in the chat. I'm sure I'm bringing in some of your very nice followers and everything, but he just said he or she said heretical works, which is just like just like
shut up, silly woman.
like just I no offense, bro or chick or whatever, but like for me, like calling it heresy is like, have you been listening since the beginning? I'm perfectly fine with being a heretic. I don't know. I don't even know what you believe or what I'm committing heresy against in or whatever we said. Heresy. What does that mean? You're against the establishment religions? Fine. Heretic. Okay.
Indeed. I'm deeply offended that I'm considered a heretic, considering I'm not a Christian.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, I do think that there was purpose to all of that, and so if the purpose of the Holocaust was to teach us what the ultimate evil looks like, well, someone had to do it.
Yeah.
Someone had to do it. And so, I mean, it's almost like I had you watch, or I asked you very nicely to watch, and I think you agreed, the channeling of the like afterlife interview with Hitler.
Yes.
What did you think of that?
You know what I thought of that. I already told you. I thought it was.
But we want to have that conversation in
absolutely.
public.
I am happy to have that conversation. Yeah, like, if channeling is possible, then it's interesting, and nothing there was like shocking to me or anything because I was already open to this type of stuff, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not even necessarily skeptical on channeling. I'm just skeptical on people and anything that's like very not necessarily confident, but like overly confident of like, yes, I'm hearing this thing and it's this person. Like, I just don't trust somebody on YouTube necessarily. If I don't know what you do if you do this stuff, I'm not saying I don't trust you, but like somebody who's
probably best not to trust me if we're honest about
that's
it.
fine. I don't trust anybody. So I suppose you are lumped in there. But yes, I think that with the channeling and stuff like that, it's just not that different than a lot of the mega church faith healing, where we know that like I do believe in healing as well, but a lot of the mega church faith healing, we have found like people have taken like radio receptors into mega churches and heard that they're like people fill out like prayer cards at the beginning, and then they pass on the information. They say you need to pray for them about this, and then you need to like all those amazing miracles that the mega churches do are shady, and I don't trust them. And I kind of feel the same about this person. And I know the argument to that is, well, this person's not making a living off of it. They're not really having a popular stance. But still, I don't know. I just don't trust people.
Well, but that's not even my argument to it. My argument to it is like, does it even matter? Because why I think that conversation is interesting, and I definitely encourage everyone to watch it if you haven't, if you're interested in this type of stuff, because it's afterlife interview with Hitler. It's on a channel called Channeling Eric, which is like a mother and her dead son, and they channel like different like celebrities that have died, and they have conversations with them about like their human experience. But like my point with that is like, is it real? Is it not? I don't know. But I think that the perspective that it offers is an interesting one. And the perspective of it was basically like Hitler with God in the spiritual realm, whatever, is still suffering today. Essentially,
Sure.
that soul that incarnated as Hitler is still suffering and is still working through the torment of it. But like in that interview, and I probably should have rewatched it when I sent it to you, but I didn't.
Sounds good. I have a terrible memory anyway, so we're probably in about the same spot.
But like, like essentially what that soul said is like, it was my purpose to do, like, I chose to do that for this reason because humanity had to understand that. But like the karma that comes with inflicting that type of evil on humanity, like there's not just like a get out of jail free card just because hell doesn't exist. Like that soul is still processing that trauma. And so is channeling real? Is it not real? I mean, I almost think it's like immaterial in terms of like having a conversation about the spiritual ramifications, because even if it was just completely made up, totally fabricated, it's still an interesting perspective to consider. What do you think of that?
Are you familiar with Mr. Show? I think is what it's called. That
No.
old Bob Odenkirk and David Cross sketch comedy show. They did it was a thing from back in the day. I don't know, like early 2000s, probably somewhere around there. They did a Netflix like redo. I don't remember. It was called something slightly different, but it's maybe something with Bob and something. Something. I'm really good here, but there's one sketch that they do in there where it's like they were ahead of you on this. That's where I'm going with this. But they do one sketch where like this little boy is like, it's like the kid who dies, goes to heaven, comes back and writes a book. There's a lot of these, and the Christians love it. They eat it up. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But this kid in this sketch died, came back, wrote a book about it, and his parents are like going out shilling for it on like these TV shows and stuff. And they're like, well, tell us about heaven. And he's like, oh, it was beautiful. It's like this magical, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, I saw grandma and she was this, and I saw this person and that. And then there was this funny man named Hitler who had a funny mustache. And they're like, wait, what? Who? And the parents were like, no, I don't think that's what you saw. He's like, oh, yeah, his name was it was Hitler. He had like this weird haircut and like, oh, shit. Like, so just them like freaking out about the possibility that they could be wrong about that, I thought was fascinating then. And how somebody like a parent in that situation would probably be like, no, don't say that because that's bad for business, basically. And I thought that was a very interesting way to go about that. And yeah, I think it's possible. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. And no offense, but I don't really care. Actually, like if Hitler went to heaven or if Hitler went to hell, I try, like if there is a divine creator and we don't just turn to dust after this, I just believe that he's taking care of it. And if Hitler deserves something, then that's like I'm not the one inflicting the punishment, and I can't change what is, so it doesn't matter to me. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, I don't think it did, but that's all right. That's all right.
Feel free to re-ask it if you need.
No, I don't think. But I mean, what I was thinking about when you were saying that is like, why do human beings have such an aversion to the idea of a God that has such unconditional love that that it could love someone like Hitler unconditionally?
Yeah, I agree with that question. And I have asked many times, like, why do Christians love hell so much? Like, why do they need it?
Like, why does the woke left love racism so much?
Yeah. And I would venture to say, heretical as this may be, that they don't. Most of them don't really deep down believe it. And probably most of them don't deep down really believe in heaven either. I think most of us are just most people are just kind of wandering through life. And the people that are really that say that they believe in hell, like if you believe, especially if you believe that you go to hell for like thinking a naughty word or something and not asking for forgiveness, which a lot of people do, if you believe that, how is that not the only thing you're talking about all day long to all of your relatives, all your friends, everybody? How are you not the annoying person that's constantly warning people about hell if you honestly believe that? I don't think you do. What you would like, I don't know, you would go, you would never get anything done. That would be the only thing you'd be talking about because your friends and family, it's not like they're gonna hurt for a bit. No, they're going to suffer and burn and crave death and not be able to obtain that because they thought a naughty word and Jesus doesn't like that. And they're going to burn forever because of that. And it's kind of on you at this point for just going to your 9-to-5 job or even caring about money or caring about food. How could you care about anything here when your family is going to burn forever? I don't buy it. I don't think they do either. But they're not honest about it.
Is that what made you kind of like disillusioned with the church?
I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, yeah. And I started getting back into it probably, I don't know, when I started hearing some answers and people kind of being like, well, yeah, it's
How did
fine.
you hear answers, Dan?
I don't
Did you
remember.
hear them?
Well, no. I mean, like podcasters and like people just
Oh.
other people just like breaking stuff down and
I was like,
questioning
did
things and
God
stuff like
speak
that.
to you?
Yeah, well, I think so. I think I've had more spiritual experiences and felt closer to God since I've been like, it's fine not to know. It's fine to like. I think a lot of for me, like the concept of faith was kind of shattered by Bill Maher's Religulous documentary. Have you seen that by chance?
A long time ago when it first came out.
Yeah. It like I think
Yeah.
it's a decent documentary. I think it's mostly taking easy shots at easy targets and like people who are just like, hillbilly Southern Christian or whatever. No offense, but just like people who just believe because they believe, instead of like really digging into things. But one thing that he said in there, and I watched this when I was fairly young. It's not like that crazy of a thought, but he was like, what makes faith a good thing? Like how like there's no other circumstance in our life where believing something without evidence is a good thing, like just believing it just because somebody told you to believe it. But it's like not only acceptable, it's like the whole backbone of your theology is believe it because you don't know or because you don't have evidence of it, and that's a good thing. Why is that a good thing? And as I don't know, tore things down and rebuilt them back up a little bit. Just like that always kind of sat with me. And I got to the point where I'm just like, I think that faith is really just understanding that you don't know. And like knowing what you believe and having reasons as to why you believe it that you can back it up with, but having the humility to say, if I am wrong, it's because I just don't know. And that's okay. But like this dogmatic, we've got it all figured out mentality from any side on anything, any of the things that I talk about, like conspiracies, politics, and even religion, even libertarianism and stuff like that. It's like you're only right until you're proven wrong, and that's okay. Like you should believe what you believe and go for that for sure, because you might be right. But if you're wrong, does that like change something other than how you believe? Because like I don't know, people act like if you deviate from your initial thought, or if you have growth or learn new things, especially within faith, then that's dangerous and scary, and you're going outside of God's intention. And I'm like, well, if God is scared of my questions, then is he a God worth worshiping?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, I would argue, so I totally get the perspective of like, we don't know. And I mean, to a certain extent, I agree with that. Like, I don't think that we can ever truly understand what all this is until we die, until we like are, have that different perspective outside of our human bodies. But at the same time, and I also do understand why people are atheists. Like, I think it's a perfectly valid thing to say, like, there's no actual quantifiable proof of God, like, whatever. I think that's a reasonable position. At the same time, I would say that, like, the reason I believe in God is because I have had experiences with God that I am absolutely positive were not of this world. And am I going to use that as proof to try to convince someone else to, like, you have to subscribe to my belief system because I had these experiences? Well, no, because they're my experiences and it's my belief system, and it doesn't have to apply to everyone else. But I have absolutely had experiences that I would ascribe to the divine, and so I believe it. And I think that I think my lived experiences are just as true as anything else that I could present as a verifiable experience. I just wouldn't use it to say, here's why other people should agree with me.
Yeah, and even with atheism, I think atheism for me, like, whatever. No offense to atheists, you figure it out in your own time. That's between you and God. But I think it takes a lot more faith. Quite frankly, it takes a lot more faith to look out at all of this and believe the pale blue dot, you're a speck on a speck in the middle of a vast nothingness, and all of this. It has no real meaning, no real value, and when you die, you're just dead, and then that's it. But the fact that you were here to begin with was kind of a miracle. Like, even outside of humans coming from an explosion or crawling out of the sea or whatever you want to say, like, that's pretty miraculous. That's pretty freaking crazy. And not only that, but like the just humanity reproducing is kind of fucking crazy. Like you can accidentally make human life. Like I don't know, like what is science other than our best interpretation of everything around us, which includes spiritual shit. Like I don't know. I don't think science and religion are at odds with each other at all, and we just our interpretations of both of them are at odds with each other. And yeah, I don't remember what the question was.
Have you ever? This
Or
isn't
there
the
was-
question, but I'm gonna ask a different question. Have you ever just like walked into a room and knew something was wrong before anyone said anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like most people in the world have probably had an experience like that, and those instincts usually turn out to be correct, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where does that instinct come from?
Right. Well, I would say God, and I would say even more so. Like I don't know. I've been like trying to break down my spirituality even more. Like when I'm like playing worship music and stuff, things that I would have scoffed at before because like, oh, it's kind of cheesy lyrics, or oh, it's not the best musicianship, or oh, whatever. It's like it's not a good like it's a we're creating shitty art to praise, something that is the creator of all, and this is the best that we've got. I still kind of lean that way in some circumstances, and I think a lot of it is just for monetary gain. But
There's some Christian rock music that's okay.
oh, absolutely. I could
Like I still listen to
I've got a
Flyleaf to this
whole
day.
wall
Like
of it. Yes.
I fucking love Flyleaf.
Yeah. No, not bashing on just that in general, but like especially like a lot of the I don't know the poppy worship music and stuff like that gets really artificial in my opinion. But when I'm like playing, like I can get if I just think, oh, I'm supposed to be worshiping now because singing songs to Jesus makes Jesus happy. Like that just seems stupid to me. But if I can put myself in the mindset of like, what a fucking miracle just the existence of music is. Like you say,
Right.
like walking into a room, yeah, that's a crazy thing that science can't explain, or at least our understanding of science can't explain. Music, like just like I can get into a worshipful mode just thinking like listening to a piano and being like that piano started somewhere. Like where did the piano come from? Somebody like hit a note on a thing, like made a thing, hit a string, and it made a sound, and they're like, wow, let's make more of that. And then we made like 88 keys or 81, I don't remember. And that like figuring out all these different mathematical like combinations of these things to let me get the porn out of here 1 second. And like just these combinations, or like strumming on a guitar, like just a collection of sounds that makes you feel a way. There is no science that can make me understand that, or at least not to my knowledge. But like I don't know, like that to me, just even understanding like the magnitude of the things around you and having appreciation for the things around you, I think that is more worshipful than a lot of like, I don't know, people just singing songs because that's what we do and Jesus likes it.
Well, I mean, like what you're talking about though is like the fact that the music evokes human emotion. It makes
Right.
it makes you feel things. It can take you to a place that like is not of this world, right? And the same thing is true of like art or like a really great book or things like that. And so the part of the brain that actually picks up on our gut instincts, like when we walk into the room and we know something is wrong without anyone saying anything to us, that's actually the part of our brain that also controls our emotions. And so I like the argument that I've always made is, we're only consciously aware of like a minute amount of information in our brain. Like our brain takes in 11 million pieces of information every single second across our five senses, which is a ridiculous amount of information.
Yeah.
But we're only consciously aware of about 40 pieces of that information. So what's going on with the rest of that information? Well, it's being processed in our subconscious because the brain doesn't just discard information we're not consciously aware of. It does something with it because it's like a supercomputer.
Yeah.
But like there's so much that goes on in this world that we are just not consciously aware of. So how out of left field is it really to say that, going back to the idea that, if we're reincarnating on this earth and the unique facet of a human experience on this earth is that human beings experience emotions, and maybe other beings on other planets don't necessarily experience the same type of thing the way we do, then the fact that the emotional part of our brain is what processes all of the subconscious information in our brain, that to me is like you start to have like too many coincidences about
Yeah.
these things, where it's like, okay, I understand why someone's an atheist, but I ironically, like when I started really getting into spirituality was when I was studying psychology. And I always poo-pooed this stuff before. I was like, this is like garbage, like whatever. But I started studying psychology, and psychology led me to
which stuff did you
mindfulness.
poo-poo? The religious stuff, or like the spiritual stuff, or the psychology stuff?
Like the woo-woo, like energy stuff. I was like, okay, that's kind of nice to think about and play around with it a little bit, but I never really kind of bought into it until I started studying psychology. And then I got in from psychology, I went to mindfulness, and then I started reading a lot about meditation and the impact of meditation on the brain. And then I just kind of like kept backing into like, okay, if all of this stuff is true, then holy shit, that energy woo woo shit that aligns with all of this stuff. And that's how I kind of backed into it.
I like it. I like it.
So there is like an empirical basis for a lot of this stuff. And there's a guy named Joe Dispenza who does these meditation workshops, and he's written like a million books on it. But he writes books about like the impact of they actually like in his meditation workshops, they put these like helmets on people and they hook them up to all sorts of things, and they track how their brain changes when they're in a meditative state and like what happens in different types of meditative states and things like that. And this guy, like I know people, and I've done it myself, like I experienced actual physical healing in one of his workshops. There was an injury I had for years from back when I used to be a runner, and it was just like it was constant, it was nagging, it was ongoing. I had been to so many doctors for this thing, and it just would like no one could figure out what the hell was going on. In one fucking week-long meditation workshop, I had cured this injury, and it was in an instant. And I remember the instant that it happened because I like my legs started shaking while I was in meditation. I was like, what the hell's going on? Because it was a chronic injury I had with my calf. And I got up and I was just like, my calf feels okay. And this was the first time in years that this has happened. And so I went to the treadmill at the gym, and I just got on the treadmill. I started running because this injury had popped up like when I was training for a marathon, and it just like it made it impossible for me to run distances without being in an excessive amount of pain. And so I started running on the treadmill, and there was no pain. And after that, for as long as I was running and working out after that, and that was about a year before the pandemic, and I kind of stopped working out during the pandemic because they shut down my gym and I got out of habit, like whatever.
Right.
But the pain never came back. And that was all I credit all of that to meditation. And so, and I know other people have had physical healings from that sort of thing. And so like when that happens, it's like, is that really a human created thing? Or are like, how can we physically heal our bodies just by thinking thoughts? And if we can physically heal our bodies just by thinking thoughts, then what else can we do?
Absolutely. And I am all about, I think we're only using a fraction of our potential, be that your brain or your third eye or anything else. And I like early on in the days of this show, like I lost some of my Christian listeners just because I had on a guy who was like a Christian who's all about third eye and like using things like tarot cards and things like that. He came from a background of he got involved in like dark witchcraft and stuff, and he saw demons and things according to him, and went through a lot of really dark shit. And then he got out of that, and then he was like, oh well, this probably aligns similarly with some of your stuff, but he's like, all this stuff, it can be used, like all the things that even the church is scared of. I've seen it used for evil. I have no evil intent. I'm away from that now, but that doesn't mean that this thing is inherently evil. Like I think that there are things that our brains have the ability to do, like probably healing yourself, like whether or not that's God healing you or whether or not that's you tapped into some understanding outside of yourself, which is probably a godly thing to heal yourself. I like to say that that's evil because like you were healed through dark arts or something. It's like, I don't know, like maybe the dark arts are just like selfish arts, the arts used in selfish ways or whatever, and that gets you into a dark place. But I think that there's things far beyond our understanding that we have the capability of, and I think a lot of the Christian church being afraid to dig into those things, or at least ask questions about those things, thinking that if you read your horoscope or something that you're gonna go to hell. It's like, or like it might be that, or it might be just stupid. Some Karen wrote something in the paper and you're scared of that. Or it might have somewhere in the middle where it has actual bearing, and that Karen came up with something that is, based on something beyond your understanding. And to think that because you don't get it, then it's anti-God is like very, very simplistic, in my opinion.
No, I agree. All right. Well, I kind of covered all the stuff I wanted to cover, so we've decided that Hitler did not go to hell because neither of us are convinced that hell is a real thing.
And also Hitler
But
bad.
he was very bad. Very
Hitler
bad.
bad.
Hitler
bad.
wait,
Hitler bad.
Hitler
Yes.
bad. Wherever that they're close enough. People
Yes.
get the message.
I am curious your thoughts on dreams.
Oh,
do
see,
you
the
think
thing is, like,
dreams
I
are?
don't dream. I don't dream,
Really?
and so, like, I think I think when I was abducted by the aliens when I was a child, which is why I was constantly afraid of unsolved mysteries, like, irrationally. I really think, like, I shut down my ability to dream. I dream every once in a while, but, like, really not all that much. I think that the reason that I don't dream is because shit happened to me when I was a kid that I don't want to remember.
Sure.
And I think that it would bring up those memories. But I've also definitely gotten messages from dreams, or I've gotten like I've had like premonitions about people that like I think I have like a soul contract with or whatever, which is just like an agreement you make before you're born to impact each other's lives in like positive or negative ways. But I think that they like it's accessing our subconscious, and it's like, and I think that's all it is. It's subconscious, and I think that it probably could come from somewhere else, but I also think it could just be stuff that like that 11 million pieces of information that we're not consciously aware of, like making itself known. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what I think, which is my political answer to everything. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Like, I don't remember something I was watching recently. It might have been one of the Doctor Strange movies because I watched those recently. I have a terrible memory of where I heard something, but they were saying something like, "Oh, when you're dreaming, that's actually your alternate dimension. Like that's actually happening somewhere." I don't know, like I don't know if I'd go there, but maybe like I don't know. It could be just as simple as like dreams are just crazy thoughts that we have in our brain. Oh, the porn bots are back. Cool.
Gotta set it to subscribers only.
Yeah. It could be just the normal obvious thing that everybody thinks it is, which is just your brain, I don't know, having a party while you're asleep, which doesn't make sense. Which sleep doesn't make sense either to me. But there's so many things. Yeah, it's possible that it's in an alternate dimension, but I also don't think that it's just what they say it is or what we understand it as. I think it could be, I don't know, memories or visions of something that we've experienced. I've definitely experienced like sleep paralysis and what I would call demonic activity, and stuff like that. Minimally, it's not like something major, but there was definitely a long time where I was having like sleep paralysis, and like my wife would be next to me and I could not get her attention, could not move or anything, and like I would be I don't remember what the max was, but there were some that were like 5 layers deep where I would have this dream where I was being attacked by something and I couldn't move to alert my wife about it, and then I would wake up from that dream, and then it would happen again, and it would happen again, and it would happen again, until finally I was like wake up in a panic because I'm like, I don't know what's real and what's not real right now. So I'd be like, help me. And she's of course asleep, and like, what's going on? Like, she was sympathetic, obviously, but like you can't even explain at that point. It's like, I don't know what's going on. Like some shit just went down and it was horrifying, but yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, there's definitely a school of thought that says like, any reality that we can imagine has happened in some timeline somewhere, whether it's like one of those things like, you can make 5 different decisions right now, and you'll go down 5 different timelines depending on which decision you make, and have all these like parallel experiences and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's creepy. I've never actually like heard of like that happening where you have sleep paralysis and you keep like waking up and then going back into the dream and you just can't move. What do you think what do you think you learned from that?
Don't go to sleep.
Well, it's probably a bad lesson. You need to, it's like not
I have not slept
Nightmare on Elm
since.
Street. Oh my god, that explains so much.
It's a good question. What did I learn from that? I don't know.
Well, if everything happens for a reason and we have all of our experiences for a reason.
I'm sure I did learn something from that. I suppose I haven't pondered it enough, and I don't want to like just make something up for the sake of an answer. I'm not sure, but that's something I would definitely meditate or ponder on, because that's an interesting question for sure.
Do you meditate?
I do on occasion. It's been a while, but I pray like the conventional way at times, and sometimes I meditate, which I don't think is that much different, except for like I just think it's funny that Christians have a lot of the time they think meditation is bad when like
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like shutting the fuck up and listening for an answer? It seems like that's pretty Christian. Something that, it's fine to say shut the fuck up. Well, not with the F word, obviously, if you're a Christian. It's fine to say shut up and listen for an answer from God, but it's not fine to call it meditation, which I don't know. Which, I'm sure you have a different understanding of what meditation is, maybe?
No, I think the meditation and prayer are incredibly similar.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any different. It always confuses me why Christians think it is different. Actually, like one of the meditations that I've been doing a lot lately is a guided meditation with Jesus of all people.
Sure.
It's to access
Josh.
Christ consciousness. Josh, yes,
Mhm.
exactly. And I don't know why people have such an aversion to this. It's just shutting your eyes, doing some deep breathing, pushing your energy out if you get really fancy about it, and just like sitting and being with yourself. And it
How
doesn't
dare
make
you.
any sense like why that's bad. Yeah.
Right. Of all things, God's like, stop being calm. Get back to being scared of hell. That's where I really thrive.
Well, but this is why, like, I have no choice but to believe that hell is a human created invention, because it's like when you look at all of these things that some Christians, not all Christians, but some are like so judgmental about, like meditation or like, doing like, reading certain books or
Right.
what have
Or
you, or
yoga.
listening to certain music or yoga or meditate or things that like make you feel good. It's like or like the fact that like I've had like a healing experience. Like, doesn't God want me to feel good? Doesn't God want me to have a good life? Does God want me to be like infirm in a wheelchair, just getting rolled into the Christian church and like listening to the sermon or whatever? That doesn't seem like what God would want for me.
I think he would prefer if you had the same experience, but it was on TV in front of a congregation at a mega church. That's
Oh, that would
if
be
that
the cherry
happened,
on top.
that would be a Jesus moment that none of us can deny. And then yes, I'm dogging on Christians right now. Deal with it. Not you, them. That would be a Jesus moment in an experience. But if you have the exact same experience and you didn't ask Jesus for it, that is bad? Or is that a Jesus experience that you didn't attribute to the right thing? Or maybe like isn't that certainly a possibility that Jesus heals people that don't have faith? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if Jesus really loved us all, and wouldn't Jesus want to heal it? And why wouldn't Jesus heal like a baptized child that's always been to church their entire life that ends up coming down with cancer when they're a kid? Why wouldn't Jesus heal that?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. And I was gonna say something and it's gone now.
We can talk about abortion next time.
I'm down.
What
It would
spiritual
probably
purpose
be
of
more of a
abortion?
debate there.
No, I mean, I think that having a pro-life position is a perfectly valid thing, but like if you're looking at like a spiritual purpose of something, again, like I believe there's a spiritual purpose of it. I believe that it
Sure.
like when abortion. Let's just have the conversation now. I'll give you
Okay.
my too long didn't read abortion thing.
Deal.
I believe that again, if people make decisions about their lives before they are born, as I believe they do, and you have questions about that, which is fine.
Sure.
Wouldn't it stand to reason that if a woman has an abortion, that might be an experience she needed to drive her down some path that she needed to go down? And if that's true, then the child would probably agree to be part of that experience as well, and they agree to it before they're born because they know that they're spiritual beings. They know that they never really die, they just change forms. And so the prospect of death isn't actually really all that frightening when you're looking at it from that perspective, because you're never really going to die. You're always going to have the chance to live again and do whatever you want to do. There's also schools of thought that say that when children are aborted, oftentimes they come back to the mother in future children that are born. So maybe it wasn't the right time for the child. Maybe it was part of the plan that the mother needed to. What if the mother experiencing an abortion pushes her to be a rabid anti-abortion activist that was ultimately one of the people that got Roe v. Wade overturned? Like, would that
What if they aborted
that would
Hitler?
be
Wouldn't that
what
be
if they aborted Hitler?
Mm-hmm.
What if they aborted Hitler?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been a good thing?
The
So I
same-
do think there's some spiritual purpose to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if we can wrap our brains around, I mean, we're 2 hours in. If we've come to the conclusion that we can wrap our brains around, Hitler having a divine purpose that we don't understand, then abortion is not as difficult to understand for me. I don't like it. Like, just in the same way, if the Holocaust was happening, I would be opposed to the Holocaust right now. I am opposed to abortion in the same way. It might have a purpose that's beyond my understanding, but I think it would also mean that I have a divine purpose to be against it, I suppose.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah. So either way, like I can wrap my brain around it being the truth. I don't know if it is the truth, and I'm still against it, even if Jesus loves abortion, which I think is what you said.
That is exactly what I said. Yeah, thank you. That'll definitely not get clipped out of context. But you'll be the one that gets clipped out of context in that, and not me. So that's acceptable so far as I'm concerned.
Oh well, there's a purpose for it in the struggle on Twitter.
There is a purpose for every Twitter cancellation.
That's right.
In the history of the world. It's true. Well, all right, Dan. We've been going for almost 2 hours. We've gotten a YouTube strike. We've changed channels. We've gone up and down and all around today. Anything else we need to talk about?
I mean, I could honestly do this all day because I'm just like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. What do you think about this and that? This has been great. We have to cut it off somewhere, and I'm apparently a pageant dad now, so I have to go do that.
I heard. Yes, you have to cart the beauty queen around.
Yep. So that's gonna be my week.
I'm sure you're thrilled.
Yeah, but no, this has been fantastic. And if you're scared of this, then what are you doing? Like, what is your life? What value do you really? If you're not at least pondering the things that other people believe that are scary, like that's really what my show is all about. I will talk to basically anybody that comes like in good faith or whatever and shares their opinions or their beliefs or whatever. It doesn't matter because I don't know. I'm not going to be swayed. Like let's say I had Hitler on my show tomorrow. Yes, I'll go there. If I had Hitler on my show, I'm not going to become a Nazi because I had Hitler on my show. I am going to try and convince Hitler not to be a Nazi again. I don't think not to be a Nazi. I think there's extreme value in it, to the extent that it might be the literal divine purpose for which you were created was to have that uncomfortable conversation and change the world by making people think a little bit differently, even if you're wrong about something, to make them question why they believe and, actually dig into figuring out why they believe it. And maybe they come up with the ultimate truth, and maybe they don't. And either way, I don't think they're going to hell. So there's that.
Yay. Well, I want to encourage everyone that came here from my channel, please make sure you subscribe to Dan's channel. You're here anyway,
That's
so
right.
You might as well subscribe and listen to the weird shit that he says on his podcast, which is one of the few podcasts that I actually listen to, kind of frequently. Just because you have a cool background. I'm still not sure I like you because you don't like dogs, and I'm inherently suspicious of anyone who doesn't like dogs. So
well,
maybe
dogs. I think this is a good place to wrap on. Dogs are
Nazi fags.
Because somebody asked me on a Q&A a long time ago. I was talking about how much I hate dogs. I have 2 dogs, and I love my dogs. This is mostly a joke, but it's been an ongoing joke on the show. And I even have a shirt in my store that says dogs are literally Hitler, and then it has a little cartoon dog with a Hitler stash. That all came from somebody said in a Q&A, they're like, which is worse, dogs or Hitler? And I was like, well, here's the thing. Hitler, yeah, he did his thing. It was bad. It sucked. But dogs are still doing it. So, dogs have been wreaking havoc on everybody since the beginning of time, and they're still doing it, and they will continue to do it unless we stop them. So dogs are literally tiny Hitlers in and of themselves. They are socialists. They take from you. They hump your leg without asking, and they are little Hitlers. So yes, I think that puts a nice button on this Hitler conversation. That yes, dogs are
well done.
Dogs are Hitler.
Well done. Only you could round it out in such a glorious way, Dan.
And that's the type of beautiful, masterful art that you get on this stupid channel. Subscribe.
Yes, exactly. Well, guys, thank you for having the conversation with me. I appreciate it, and hopefully we have many more conversations in the future because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
Me too.
All right, guys. Well, I do think that my Lauren Southern Part 2 will still be premiering, even though I have a stupid, unnecessary, ridiculous strike on my YouTube channel that I will be writing an appeal for right after this when I remember what exactly I said that they constituted as election information. But I do think that will still be premiering tonight at 8 p.m. I don't know what's going to happen with Part 3. Get in my locals, kb.locals.com, and you'll get all the stuff in locals, and we'll work out the YouTube shit later. But thank you for hanging out, guys. And thank you, Dan, for volunteering your channel for the second part of this conversation. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I accept the strike. Thank you for having me.